Greetings, greetings, family. We are live. Sister Shanice in the house alongside Dr. Abu and our brother Franklyn Jones. We have got a great show lined up for you again today. Backed by popular demand, our very own brother Franklyn Jones, all the way from the USA, the United States of America. Oh, my brother. So Dr. Abu, rise up yourself. How you doing?
Well, give thanks, Sister Shanice and Brother Franklyn, and our wonderful, wonderful family audience out there. Give thanks all the time.
All the time, Dr. Abu. As always, great to have you in the house. And as we can see, family, we've got our brother Franklyn Jones with us all the way from the United States of America. I mean, my brother, what go on in America right now? How are things in America?
It's hectic as always, and it's racist as always.
That about sums it up, eh? Oh, greetings, family. Greetings to everybody that's joining us in the chat. Yeah, please drop us a message. Let us know that you are in the house. I want to rise up. DJ Jamaican Junkro channel. First one in the house today to drop us a message. Rise up yourself, the Jamaican Junkro. Rise up, Orbia man as well. He must say, bless up, Sister Shanice and guest. Highly blessed in advance, Franklyn Jones, soldier, scholar. You don't know. Yes, Orbia man. You know about the brother, Mr. Franklyn Jones himself. And he's rising up, others in the house as well. Sister Veronica, watching us from the Gambia. How you doing? Our Sister Veronica, she's doing some amazing work out there in the Gambia. She is making sure that the providers in the supermarkets, those who are providing our food, she's making sure that the food is within date, that it's being kept properly in the freezers. She ain't ramping. Yeah, we've had her as a guest on our show before, and it's an absolute honor to have you in the house. And she's saying, hi, y'all, from the Gambia, by way of America. Yes, indeed. We have numerous family members from the diaspora in America. Family in the chat, what do you think about the Africa-Caricom summit that happened yesterday? We had a really interesting conversation about that on my show today, but let me know your thoughts. Brother Franklyn, did you know that there was a CARICOM conference yesterday? Well, it was an Africa-Caricom summit. All the heads of state from Africa and from the CARICOM countries came together, as Africans around the world, to talk about issues of common concern. Was that flagged up as a big issue in America?
Yes, it is. Those of us in the African-American community who are conscious have been following it. Those of us who are conscious, we recognize that the plight of the Africans is a global issue and not an American issue. So we were pleased to see what was happening in Africa also.
Dr. Abu, have you been following it? What are your thoughts, my brother, on the CARICOM African Summit?
Well, if we put it together, then it will bring us some form of solution. But if others put it together, and when it comes to the CARICOM and them thing, they can't do nothing for us, blood. They can't do nothing for us. I will never put my trust in those people. You understand? Because whosoever pay the piper call the tune. Those conference and things is what you call commercial happiness.
Yes.
You understand? And it keeps us in a certain way that we think that things is happening, but nothing ain't happening for us. I'm telling you, people may think different. But all of these CARICOM, we have to tell them that to carry it back.
So you would say it's a placebo?
Yeah, it is. It is a placebo.
It looks like
it is a placebo, because if you're going to talk about these CARICOM leaders, Look what's happening into Haiti. Look what's happening to in St. Vincent. Look what's happening to Jamaica. And then they don't come out and make a statement, and they're gonna come on these like commercial happiness. No, this is Tizzle Wood and his overseer Hector.
Yeah, explain for those who don't know Tizzlewood and Hector. Just elaborate a little bit for us. Dr. Abu.
You know, Tizzlewood used to be a plantation owner in Jamaica, and he used Hector as an overseer, another African, you know, see, to oppress fellow African, because that is what's going on here. You know, see, you know, all of these Caribbean leaders, they are not for the people, they are for the corporation blood. And it's full time we start to put our foot down and stop play this belly politics with them.
We hear you loud and clear, Dr. Abu, because, you know, to what extent can the leaders of these corporations, you know, the leaders of these so-called states that have been created by the colonialists, that are controlled and managed by the colonialists, to what extent, you know, can they really independently do anything for the people? Look at the situation of the people in all of those countries. It's the same pattern right across the board. Irrespective of the wealth that exists within those countries, the people remain poor, you know? And here we have a situation where it appears as though they're coming together to represent our interests, just like the coup in Guinea, where it appears that coup is happening in the interest of the people. But to what extent is it really about the people, or is it more about the corporations just changing guards? We will talk about that maybe on another time. So we've got the family coming into the house. We've got 49 in the house at the moment, and we know more are going to be joining us every second. But let's go over to the chat and see what people in the chat have got to say about that conference, if there are any comments about that there. Let's see. So one of our brothers I saw said lip service. And let's say, Brother Wilford is saying the Caribbean leaders are a waste. Hey, and Obiaman is saying YouTube. All right, okay. Just type in CARICOM Africa Summit. Okay, so letting someone know where you can find that. Yes, just go online, type in the African CARICOM Summit, and it will indeed come up. So rising up everybody in the house as you come and join us. It was the Jamaican Junker who says lip service, and but he did say that the PM, Miss Mia Motley, she was powerful in her delivery. In saying know about the rest of them, but Motley, yeah, I actually played Motley's presentation on my show today. Take out the reference to the big C, where all of them is peddling as well. So they got massa priority agenda in there and the climate change agenda in there. But like Dr. Abu say, where's our agenda about Haiti? Where's our agenda about St. Vincent? Where's our agenda about us in the diaspora and those of us who want to return to the motherland? Where's the agenda regarding reparations? You know, where are the provisions to make anything, any of what they've said, you know, it come into practice, come into fruition? It needs resources and finances. Okay, we're over the 50 mark, so we are ready to hit the ground running. Family, as you can see, we've got the man himself in the house, none other than our brother, Mr. Franklyn Jones, who is not a stranger to this show. He has been on the show before, and he is back by popular demand. Wow. The last time we had our brother Franklyn Jones on the show, I mean, the learning was phenomenal. It really was. We were getting ourselves, you know, educated into understanding how, you know, the narrative that many of our people might think is independent and impartial is in fact, you know, a method that's used to psychologically brainwash us, but no one can explain it better than the man himself. So we're going to go over to our guest for this evening, our brother Franklyn Jones. Let me see if I can get a setting that puts you more prominently in the screen. Rise up, not that one. No, let's try this one here. Nope, maybe that one. Okay, no, some of them don't actually work. Brother Franklyn Jones, let's go over to you, my brother.
Yes. I would like to open by saying that it is time that we stop believing in things that insults our own intelligence. We must gain an accurate understanding of our plight in order to overcome. Because if our understandings are flawed, then all remedies that stem from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. Right now in our community, our people are drowning in false knowledge, drowning in misinformation. And this is all by design. Mm-hmm. Right now, presently, there are white governmental agents who specialize in propaganda, psychiatry, and they study the Black community. They learn our dislikes, our likes, our vulnerabilities, our weaknesses. And then this information is gathered together, and they sit and they decide which fraudulent propaganda campaigns to create that would best produce psychological feelings among the Black population that aids the white society in maintaining their social dominance over us, right? And while this is happening within the Black community, millions of Black people are insisting that we're being controlled by slave syndrome myth while calling themselves woken. This is both humiliating and this is a disgrace when you consider that we are the descendants of those who build the pyramid. Our minds have been socialized by the white society, and a socialized mind will believe nonsense and not realizing that it's nonsense. Now, I'm going to show you some nonsense that millions of Black people believe, but because their minds have been socialized, they don't understand. They're following nonsense. The belief that a Bible that was in fact written by immoral Romans that routinely engaged in massive orgies, pedophilia, death sports, and a Bible that condoned slavery, and that was brutally forced upon our ancestors by their ungodly enslavers that also raped, mutilated, and murdered them, are the true words of God, is a ridiculous belief. It is in fact a stupid belief. But millions of people function based upon it, try to defend it, and they cannot see that it's stupid.
True.
Now, the belief also that Black people are suffering from a slave syndrome is also a stupid belief. Because anyone who believes that the Willie Lynch myth is true has never thoroughly studied the origin of the Willie Lynch myth. And I can say this with great certainty because if you study it, you'll know it's fake. It was written in 1970 by a Dr. Ashanti, who just died early this year. And that's also not how brainwashing works. To brainwash a generation of people, it requires a system that's being constantly reapplied. The Willie Lynch myth represents what would be the least effective method used for controlling generations of people. Now, people, there are listeners who might say, we can believe what we want to believe. But listen, there's an exception to that rule. Usually people can believe what they want to believe, but the exception lies with the oppressed. When the beliefs held by the oppressed are falsehood that hinders their liberation, those beliefs must be exposed and eradicated. The greatest enemy of ignorance, the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It's false knowledge. Because a person who is ignorant might continue to search for truth. But a person who believes his false knowledge is true doesn't search any further. And he becomes mentally enslaved and imprisoned to the false knowledge. Willie Lynch is false knowledge. The Bible is false knowledge. We must elevate our minds in order to liberate ourselves. Socialized minds cannot see when they believe in nonsense. Now, so how do you socialize the mind? To brainwash a person, as long as if you can control what they see and what they hear, you can brainwash them. The white society controls the media images we see, the societal narratives we hear, and they control the education we're taught. This allows the white society to shrewdly indoctrinate ideologies into the minds of Black people that protects the system of white supremacy, and we don't even realize it. We have to elevate and see the truth. Our core problem is that most Black people are unable to see. We've normalized what's being done to our minds. We've normalized it. The first African was brought to America more than 403 years ago. If you're walking around now insisting that we're controlled by slave syndrome, you are ignorant. If you're adamant that is true, you're an idiot. Black people are being controlled by the white man's monopoly over our minds. Although all white governments publicly professes equality for all their citizens, in reality, they are unrelentingly committed to the preservation of their nation's white dominance. There's also an immense fear amongst those white nations that have brutally exploited Africans and Africa's natural resources for more than 400 years. And this dependency on Africa's natural resources is ongoing. From the position of the white society, these factors necessitates that they manipulate us. They deploy propaganda campaign against us to keep us divided, to keep us demoralized. And our problem is that the ignorant ones among us are overconfident, and the intelligent ones among us are filled with doubt. And this has allowed the ideology of the ignorant to prevail throughout our community. We must push back against the ignorance. We must push back against the false ideology. It is the only way where liberation will be possible. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Black people have been praying to Jesus for more than 400 years. Jesus never intervened when black slaves got sick on the ship and they threw them out and fed up to the sharks. Jesus didn't never intervene when our ancestors was enslaved. Jesus didn't intervene when our people were being lynched, murdered, castrated. And Jesus still doesn't intervene when our people are being shot down by the police officers. But yet our people still insist that Jesus is real. In the face of the preponderance of evidence that it doesn't exist. And these are people who's never studied the origin of the creation of Jesus. These ignorant mindset will call in and want to debate and argue to defend their idiotic ideologies. Black liberation begins with critically thinking. It begins with gaining a clear and accurate understanding of our plighted condition. When we know better, we do better. This is an inherent part of the human psyche. If true knowledge could not liberate Black people, then the white oppressors would not spread so much false information into our communities. We are being constantly manipulated. First, we as Africans, we outnumber Caucasians globally. Our numbers are vastly larger. And they're dependent on African natural resources. And they have a history of abusing us. So quite naturally, they're going to use propaganda campaigns to manipulate us in ways that protects their interests. From their positions to not do so, they will then be diametrically opposing their own self-interest. Everything I'm saying to you is logical, it's intelligent, it makes sense. But then there are those who want to push these ignorant ideologies and don't realize that when you push these ignorant ideologies, you are benefiting the system of white supremacy. We have to understand our socialized minds. Now, this information, they're not going to teach us in our schools. So most Black people never heard of socialized. Now, we tend to look backwards and we quote our these great speakers, our great teachers. They should be honored. But what is our ideology of today? What is our speech of today? What is our mission of today? Our mission is to reveal the brainwashing and overcome the brainwashing. We did not do this to ourselves, but it's our responsibility to liberate our minds. It's no coincidence that all white school wants to educate Black children globally. It's no coincidence that in Africa, the curriculum, various parts of Africa, is controlled by whites. Whites are telling the black children what to believe. And because we were born into this system of mental slavery, we condone it as black adults. We facilitate it. We take our children to school where they're given an education that conceals all of their contributions they've made to society. The average black child graduates from high school believing that the only thing invented by black people was peanut butter. And we know this to be a fact. Millions of us who call ourselves conscious knows it, but we do nothing about it. We condone it. We take our children to school and we say, get A's on the report card. Get A's in what? And their mind being indoctrinated. We must recognize how our minds are being indoctrinated. Everything, there's a social science. There are social sciences that are required for the long-term oppression of the people. And there are social sciences that are required for the long-term maintaining of downness of a people. It is when black people start learning these sciences, we'll understand what's being done to us. Presently, millions of black people perceive themselves as being their own worst enemy. And millions of black people revere whites in spite of a brutal history to the contrary. This mindset exists among millions of black people, and it's too widespread to be coincidental. It's never coincidental whenever the oppressed starts thinking exactly as the oppressed wants them to. And it's not a damn slave syndrome. Slave syndrome is an ignorant mindset. Slave syndrome is an ignorant mindset. Now, let me show you that you're not thinking straight if you believe it's a slave syndrome. Let me show you that you're believing in nonsense. Let me show you your mind's not functioning right. If you're ignoring the white society's monopoly over information, if you're ignoring the fact that black people constantly receive media narratives about themselves from the media, that's always negative. You see, the image of us is always negatively distorted. If you're ignoring those facts and you're thinking that black self-hate is caused by slave syndrome, your mind is clearly not working right. You're ignoring your reality for a fantasy. You're ignoring the reality for a myth. Your minds have been socialized. It's also been called thinking without thinking. This is why you believe in ridiculous, asinine premise, and you would argue to defend those premises. You see, the Bible was indoctrinated to our minds from we were young. It came from our parents. They passed it on to us. Before our critical thinking ability was fully solidified. By the time our minds solidified, it was already trapped inside there. And now we hold on to it, even though it doesn't make any sense. Here's another fact that totally disqualifies the Bible from being the true words of God. The person who oversaw the writing of the Bible, the person who added Jesus to the Bible, was Emperor Constantine in 325 AD. Constantine, the man in charge of the Bible, the man who added Jesus to the Bible, on his deathbed, refused to convert into a Christian. The man who added Jesus to the Bible refused to be converted to a Christian. He died without doing so. You see how ridiculous it is to defend your religious belief under these facts? In fact, if the Bible was a boat, you could never take it out to sea because it has too many holes in it. Your religion has too many holes in it. It will sink to the bottom. We have to understand, socialize. Throughout history, those nations that have been brutally oppressive have always socialized the minds of the oppressed to think in ways that benefit themselves. We have been socialized, and the socializing continues. The socializing continues daily. The socializing is continually reapplied. And as long as we're sitting there looking at each other saying, oh, it's the Willie Lynch, it's the Willie Lynch, we denigrate ourselves. It's humiliating. It's stupid. When you argue saying Jesus is real and ignoring the facts that he was invented by the Romans, it's ridiculous. And here's something else about when the Romans created Jesus. The Romans, like I said, they engaged in massive orgy, bestiality, homosexuality, death sports, And guess what? They continued these practices long after writing the Bible. Long after writing the Bible. Those of you who defend the King James Version without even studying it, King James himself was a homosexual who fell in love with his cousin and murdered his cousin. All of these facts, combined with the fact that the Bible strongly condones slavery, disqualifies it from being the true words of God. But yet millions of Black people goes from their cradle to their grave defending the Bible. Therefore, they live their entire lives being the white man's fool. They live their entire lives being mentally enslaved. Now, here it is. We can never correct the mindset of everyone, okay? Because some of we Africans are very much like a fruit that falls from a tree. It falls from a tree, and it drops so long and so hard and rolls so far away from the roots that it's no longer of the tree. And when you pick up the fruit, it's rotten. And it's nothing you can do to return it back to the tree. This is the case for millions of our people. But that's okay. Not everyone's going to wake up. We must push the ideology based upon accurate information. We must push an ideology that elevates the minds of our people. We must push an ideology. And those who it's meant for will gravitate to it. And we will build millions of Black people who are functioning based upon proper information. This is the goal. The goal is to create ideology. Now, when our brother Dr. Who was talking earlier, he talked about these gatekeepers. Oh, yes, he's absolutely right about these gatekeepers. We're in a system of white racism that has perfected itself. And I'm going to talk about these gatekeepers and how this works. The FBI director, Edgar Hoover, said, the next time there'll be a Black prophet, we will have created him. If there's another Black prophet, we'll have created him. Now, people regurgitate that statement, but doesn't know what it means. They regurgitate it because it makes them sound smart saying it, but they don't understand what it means. Here is what it means. These social scientists who study our communities, they recognize that it was by giving media attention to these prolific, true Black revolutionary mind leaders that propelled them to a national status, that gave them the greater power, gave them greater followers. So what the white society does now, they no longer give those type of Black people a national audience. They give a national audience only to their hand-picked puppets. And these puppets are used as gatekeepers to appease the Black masses. That's what's going on. They don't give it. They treat true Black leaders like one would weeds in a basket. Weeds in a garden, excuse me. If there are weeds growing in your garden, you don't provide it water. You don't provide it fertilizer. You don't. You deny it that because you don't want it spreading through your garden. So the white society no longer gives spotlight, a national platform to true Black revolutionary minds. That's how they control the narrative. And when you have these programs where they have all these like the brother said, the Black people come together to speak, there is a list. There exists a list. And on that list, these so-called Black leaders have people on the list who they're not allowed to invite. There are people that the white society calls extremists, and you're not allowed. And the way they control these people is by sponsoring those programs, financing those programs. And they say, if you invite this leader, this person, we will discontinue financing you. If you bring this person on, we will not air it on television. So the Black people who may have started off intentionally being positive and revolutionary minds, they become puppets. It's okay, we can't invite this person on, he's too extremist. So this allows the white man to control our narrative, allows him to keep it dumbed down. So because of his monopoly over the media image we see, the narrative we're hearing, he has dumbed down the Black revolution. He has dumbed it down. It's time to push back against the idiocy, the ignorance that prevails throughout our community. It's not our fault, but it's our duty to push against it. Now, there are those who want, the white man's power is psychological warfare. And we're trying to defend ourselves by saying, Jesus, help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus, help me. We make fools of ourselves. Fools. When you're ignorant, nonsense makes perfect sense. And the ignorance of the oppressed is the oppressor's greatest weapon. Many of our people are ignorant. Now, this is not that there's something inherently wrong with us. This is because the white man controls the narrative. The white man allows the so-called black leaders, the puppet, he propels them. He propels them, and the masses see those so-called black leaders and follow them. And he vilify and demonize the true revolutionary minds, telling the masses not to follow them. They're bad, they're wrong. We have to understand this is entirely a system that the white man uses his monopoly over information to control us, to divide us. In fact, everything that we deal with, everything we're seeing is often embedded with propaganda that is designed to shape our minds that benefits the white society. Like we here in the West, we always see negative images of Africa. Africa is always a scary and terrible place. That benefits the system of white supremacy. Yes, it does. How? When we keep seeing Africa being negatively depicted, negatively distorted, here's what happens to the mindset here in America. The black man says, you know what? I'm glad my ancestors were enslaved. They did us a favor. I don't be no damn Africa. Man, if I was in Africa, I'd eat down a tree. When the mindset of the oppressed is exactly as the oppressors want to, it's always by design. We have millions of black people, and here's how it benefits. These black people won't seek reparation because deep down in their subconscious mind, they believe the white man did us a favor. I'm glad we went to Africa. We took out Africa. They've been made to see the enslavement of our ancestors as being more of a rescue mission than the true brutal slavery it was. And you have black people now defending the white society. When the mindset of the oppressed is exactly as the oppressors want it, it's always psychological warfare. When we as a people try to liberate ourselves, clinging to our Bibles or the real story, that is no different than a child going into a real war with a toy gun. It's asinine. We have to call it what it is. We have to say our people are believing stupid ideologies. Our people, I'm not calling my people stupid. I'm saying that the white man uses monopoly over information to dumb down the minds of my people through the socializing of my people. Regardless of how intelligent a people may be, if you're able to control the information that they receive, it's entirely possible to control what they believe. Millions of black people believe in Jesus because the white man taught us that. Millions of black people believe that Africa is a terrible place because the white man taught us that. Now, when people who are ignorant say, no, we suffer from slave syndrome, the state that we're in now, the state, is not consistent with our state 60 years ago. This is a system that was established in 1969, not slavery, 1969. Because during the 1930s and 50s, African Americans loved Africa. African Americans said, Africa is my motherland. And how is this proven? When the Ethiopian War, Ethiopia went to war with Italy. Thousands, if not millions, of African Americans signed up to go to war. And you can Google it, you can pull up the YouTube, see some of them question online. They said, why do you want to go to war and fight for Africa when you live right here in Brooklyn? And the African American said, look at the camera, says, because Africa is our motherland. Africa is our motherland. We want to defend Africa. In the 1960s, African Americans were wearing afros and dashikis says Africa. Now today, millions of African Americans rather be called a nigger than an African. Millions of African Americans get angered and insulted when you call them an African and smile when you call them a nigger. You think this is a natural occurrence? No. During the 1969s, when they studied the unprecedented Black rebellion during the 1960s, the social science determined, they said the African Americans had to develop a romanticized view of Africa. And in order to increase the African Americans' allegiance to America, We have to erode their allegiance to Africa. And they said the way we will do this is making Africa appear as a source of shame and humiliation for African Americans and Africans all over the diaspora. Now, when Africans throughout the diaspora keep seeing Africa in a degrading manner, we don't want to be associated with that. It's easy to separate a people from something they've been made to feel embarrassed about. Here's a example, a simplified example that shows what's been done to us. Imagine that a group of brutal people broke into a home, stealing its wealth, and when leaving, they kidnapped some of the children and enslaved them. Now, while these invaders, through their weaponry advantage of guns and cannons, can invade a home and enslave and kidnap those children, they cannot maintain peace indefinitely with those children unless their minds have been socialized to make them think in ways that prevent them from seeking retribution. Why? Because whenever people are oppressed for long durations, their collective aggressions toward their oppressors will continue to increase until acts of massive rebellion becomes inevitable. This is an inherent part of the human psyche. The oppressed always rebels. The oppressed always seek retribution. There's one way to prevent that, you know? It's by shifting the collective aggressions of the oppressed away from the oppressive society and redirecting it against themselves, while simultaneously bombarding the oppressed with propaganda that conveys the message that they should love and admire and respect their oppressors. This is what's been done to us. So back to the children and the kidnapped children. So those who kidnapped these children will teach the children that we actually rescued you from that home. And you show them pictures of the home that was terrible, broken down. And then we teach the children that we did not kidnap them. Their parents in the home didn't want them. And they were sold away. They were unwanted. Now the children will start to feel appreciative towards those who kidnapped them. The people would start developing a patriotism to those who kidnapped them. And there's a reparation. I don't want no damn reparation. They rescued us. Those people didn't want us. And that place is a shithole. It's that simple. It's that simple when we start critically thinking, when we start looking at our reality. We think exactly as the way our oppressors want us to. And it's by design. Social scientists describe this nefarious practice as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the oppressed and or subordinate population that makes them adhere to the existing infrastructure of the dominant society. These are all in books. They teach these. But this is why you see this passion in me, because it breaks my heart when I've been studying these techniques that they use for controlling people. When I, who is a veteran who went to Iraq, who saw the programming being done to the Iraqi people's minds, saw it being sat in classroom with all these white people talking about psychological warfare, how we're going to manipulate their minds. And then when I go to my Black community to talk to my beloved brothers and sisters, they want to argue with me, no, it's Willie Lynch. It's idiotic. Oh, Jesus is going to save us. This is a science. It's not a voodoo. It's not magic. It's not supernatural. It's a system of control that utilizes the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave millions of Black people. Those Black people who do not critically think, who do not question the validity of all information they receive from white sources, are the ones who become mentally enslaved while never noticing their mental chains. See, we use words like mental slavery. So the white man is slick. He throws that word like socialized. So when it's socialized, we don't know what that means. Socialized is mental slavery. Socialized is a true social science. It's real. Everything is real. But it's not called Willie Lynch. They call it socialized. And here's how they finance the socializing of the African mind. The white governments perceive it is their duty, is the duty of the government to protect its nation from dissent, from rising amongst the oppressed. It is the duty of the government to do that. So under national interest, they deploy propaganda campaign against us to keep us demoralized, divided, and self-loathing. It's a true social science. When I was being trained in psychological warfare, I sat in a class, an only black man in the class, and the teacher they said, the most effective method used for subduing and controlling a people without physically fighting them is to bombard them with propaganda that misleads them to believe that their core problem is an internalized one. When the people believe that their core problem is an internalized one, this turns their collective aggressions away from their true enemies and redirect it against themselves. This is why everywhere where there's a significant black population, you're always going to hear about black on black crime, black on black crime, black on black crime. You keep hearing about it because it is designed to benefit the white society. It makes us believe that we are our own worst enemy. It is designed, and you'll hear black people say, no white man ever done nothing wrong to me. My biggest enemy are black people. You buy into the narrative. Now, here's how sophisticated this works. Once a belief has been instilled into the mind, the individual then only notices those things that appear to confirm the belief and becomes psychologically blinded from the greater evidence that refutes it. I give you an example. If you are made to believe that all Asian drivers are terrible drivers, okay? I don't know if that follows it in Great Britain. In America, that's this crazy story. Now, you would meet black people, it's true. I've seen these terrible Asian drivers. It's absolutely true. But in reality, they're only noticing those incidents that appear to confirm the programming. But they're not noticing the greater number that refutes it. This is why millions of black people will tell you that the white man's depiction of us is true because we've seen it with our own eyes. But they have not. Here is the reality. It is not humanly possible for anyone to make an accurate depiction of millions of people based upon their own individual experience. It's not humanly possible. Those negative perceptions that millions of black people have about themselves were indoctrinated into our minds by the white society. And then when we see instances among our people that fits the programming, then we defend it. So yes, it's true. The negative narrative about us is true. But in reality, we never see enough to confirm what the white man says about us. Never. Our mindset are being manipulated 24/7. The white man's propaganda is embedded within the education we're taught. The movies we watch, we think we're being entertained. We've seen the Black Panther. We see the narrative in there. The black man who represents our ideology is the villain. And in the movie, you've seen Black Panther. There's a significant scene where the CIA agent is shooting down an aircraft that is flying to go take weapons to black people around the world to liberate us. And the white CIA agent shoots the weapon and knocks down the jet. And in the theater I was in, all the black people started cheering for him, not realizing that they were cheering against your own self-interest. They were cheering. The ideology of black liberation was vilified. Anywhere around the world, if a white man says, give me liberty or give me death, the white world stamp and applaud him. When a black man says it word for word, he's vilified. They have created the ideology that black liberation is evil. And our people function by it. There is no black person on this planet who is able to validate his negative assessment of himself, of our people collectively. Because whenever he does, and you ask him to prove it, he always go to data.
My brother's phone is sticking. My brother Franklyn, we've lost you for a little while. We seem to have a connection problem. Hopefully our brother will be back with us very, very soon indeed. I can see a lot of lively discussion happening in the chat as well. Please get the likes up. Sister Afrijamo is telling me that we've got 110 watching, but only 16 likes. Come on, family, get the likes up. It doesn't cost you anything at all to give us a like. We do it for the love. We not do it for the likes, but you can give me a like, yeah? All right. So as you can see, our brother Franklyn Jones, you know, a few technicals, but I'm sure he will be right back with us. Wow, wow, wow. Our brother Franklyn is on fire. I'll be bringing in some of your points and some of your questions in a short while. Our brother is back with us. A few technical problems there, but welcome, Black, my brother. Are you there? Can you hear me, Brother Franklyn? There was a few technicals there and you dropped out on us. We can now see that you are back, but we're not hearing you at the moment. Okay, family, looks as though our brother has frozen. This reminds me of the advert, you know, when the cat goes walking past. Every time I see one of those, it's so funny. Oh, Brother Franklyn, you're frozen at the moment. I don't know if you can hear us, but if you can, we're not able to hear you at the moment. So let me just keep it moving until our brother is able to come back with us. Wow, wow, wow. So much. Our brother has said so much. And I noticed in the chat that there were a few comments when our brother was talking about religion. And I know, you know, how religious we are as a people. And I know only too well the extent to which religion, you know, has been indoctrinated in us as a people. And I know only too well how sensitive it is as an issue when we touch on the issue of religion. But it's such an important topic that we do need to tackle head on as a people. And I can see our brother is back behind. And I just want to share something with you very briefly in terms of religion, which really hits home what our brother Franklyn Jones was talking about when he was saying, you know, talking about how they actually reinforce, you know, their ideologies into our minds and how religion is actually used as a tool to oppress us as well. Now, for those of you who haven't gone online and read the letter from Leopold II of Belgium, that was sent to all of the colonial missionaries back in 1883 when they were out across Africa, supposedly evangelizing to save our souls, you know, for their great God. What they were being told in this letter, first and foremost, is that they need to remember that their evangelizing is for the interest of Belgium. And what they were told is that your knowledge of the gospel will allow you to find texts. Now, listen to this, because all Christians are going to know this. But they were specifically told, these evangelizers, to find texts, yeah, that's going to be encouraging the followers, that would have been us as Africans, to love poverty. Texts like, happy are the poor because they will inherit the heaven. And texts like, it's very difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. How often have we heard these texts? And he goes on to say, and you have to detach them and make them disrespect everything which gives courage to affront us, he says, and make reference to their mystic systems and their war fetishes. He said, you know, get that out of them. Yeah, because that warfare acts as protection to them. You have to make sure that they disrespect everything that's going to give them any mystical powers at all. Yeah, they're going to pretend not to want to abandon it, but he said, but you must do everything in your power to make sure that it disappears. And he says, as for the young ones, they won't revolt, because he said the children have to learn to obey what the missionary recommends, who is the father of their soul. You must singularly insist on their total submission and obedience. Avoid developing the spirit in the schools. Teach students to read and not to reason. Evangelize the N-word so that they forever stay in submission to the white colonialists, so they never revolt against and restrain. They are and restraints they are undertaking. He said, recite every day, happier are those who are weeping because the kingdom of God is them. Wow, wow, wow. When I came across this, family, I couldn't believe it. You know why I couldn't believe it? Because all those scriptures they were talking about were some of the same scriptures that my mum used to recite. Oh my days. So family, when our brother Franklyn is talking about the scriptures and, you know, Jesus and the falsehood of it and how it was created, you know, to subdue and oppress us as a people, when you do the research, the information is there to confirm it all. Brother Franklyn Jones, I'm glad you're back with us. I hope, oh no, we've lost our brother Franklyn Jones again. Dr. Abu, what say you at this stage in time?
Voodoo family, and rise up to Brother Franklyn, you know, for what he's saying, you know. This whole social engineering, you know. I mean, them have us for years following these characters. Because they are characters that they create and give to us, you know. But we need to see them in their kind of movie form. That's why them create. If you, I don't know how much you ever study Tarzan. Yeah?
Yes.
Tarzan created from the word azan, call to prayer. You understand? You know, so when the Muslim go, Tarzan go, so I'm saying I'm going to show the hypocriticalness between these Abrahamic faith. Yeah? If they say that their religion is such strict and pure and you can't even draw a picture of the prophet, how comes the Arab world allowed the European to depict them religion and create a character called Azan from depicting the Azan, called to prayer? And this is what they use, the social, they use the media. Because I remember when we used to go to cinema and we are watching Tarzan movie and we see the African creep up behind Tarzan, we are shouting, look behind the Tarzan, see him come there. And these are the things, and we don't realize, you know what I'm saying, my people? All of these Solomonic dynasty and all of these things are lies, allegories. You understand, you know? And we are looking for Menelik the second, and there was no Menelik the first. So we have to be real in ourselves and stop lie to ourselves. We become a bunch of liars.
Yes.
You know, no, you know, literal liars are. You know, when I hear some African people come and say, you know, I have a dream, you know, I've seen Jesus, I've seen an angel, and I said, what color did you see? And there's a pause there. There's a pause there because you cannot tell me, you understand, of what you see. Some said him see an image. Some said, couldn't that image be your grandfather?
Yes.
You know, or your grandmother who used to care for you and show you kindness. I said, you don't know Moses, Abraham, Jesus, you don't know them. These are same as how we are watching these Hollywood movies.
Yes.
Charleston Heston. You understand? And we say, oh, there goes Moses. You
know what?
You understand? What I'm saying, you know? What I'm saying, we talk about passive smoking is a killer, ain't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I said passive ignorance is the biggest killer. Because we socialize with the ignorance. We make ignorance entertain us. You know? And we sit down and we always said, wasn't that a wonderful speech? You know, and you know, it moved me. Yes. But there was no work. There is no work. It's just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And anytime you're a leader, have to come to the rostrum with a script.
Yes.
You have been paid blood. A true leader speak directly with nothing in front of him. And all of them. What I'm saying is, I hear organization here in the UK talking about reparation. And them and they have set up no preparation in Africa. You understand? You know? Because if you're going to talk about reparation, you have to talk about preparation. If you're going to talk about repatriation, you have to have preparation. You understand? You know, they can prepare us to go to heaven, to sit with Jesus, or we can sit with some virgin and all of these things. But all of these people them that is promised us for those things, none of them want to die. None of them want to die. So they rather sell us death, and we happily go along with him to the gallows with them. So what Brother Franklin is saying here, this whole social engineering is not from a religious point of view. It affects our education, because as I said, every test that we do in life, whether we in the Caribbean, America, or Africa, is to please European.
Yes.
You tell me the year, the date, or the time when you ever sit and pass your African test.
Yeah, never.
When? Never. So what we are doing right now, you understand? We are showing that we are willing, you understand, to be truthful with ourselves, and that's how we pass our true African test, to be truthful with ourselves and stop run with the myth and these illusion. Because some of us are very happy.
Yes,
as I said, very happy, because they give us this commercial happiness, and we happy on Monday, and horror reach us on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we have to come out of that and be truthful with ourselves. You understand? And say that we have been detoured from the time we step off that plantation, appear diversion we get and dead end. Vodum family. Anna.
Vodum, Dr. Abu, you know we're not in our right mind. From we can watch Tarzan, you know, and we're telling Tarzan to look out before we said to the gorilla, nyam him. If we're in our right mind, we don't tell a gorilla for nyam him to Tarzan make we look so bad. But yes, we're not in our right, man. And, you know, we can understand all of those who are still, you know, very much holding on to the religion. I was there as well. I understand the situation. But once you do your research and you really get to see how religion has been used as a weapon of mass destruction, read that letter from King Leopold to the missionaries. He also says in there, convert always the blacks by using the whip. Our people were whipped into submission, and then they took our children into their missionary schools and converted our children, because once the children were converted, then when they became adults, then they converted their children as well. And in here it says, force them to pay you in sign of recognition, goats, chickens, eggs, every time that they visit your village. And he says, and make sure that the niggers never become rich. Sing every day that it's impossible for the rich to enter heaven. Use money. Oh my days. Use the money that's supposed to be for the poor, he tells them, to build flourishing business centers. Teach the niggers to forget their heroes and to adore only ours. Never invite them for dinner, even if he gives you a chicken every time you arrive at his house. They've got their code. Where is our code? Dr. Franklin, let's go back to you. Now, and just before we do, someone's asked me to post the link in the chat because they'd like to join us on the platform. And so after our brother addresses some of the points that have been raised, you know, we don't want to turn this into a religious thing. Religion was just an example, you know, of the psychological brainwashing, and one of the methods that's being used to brainwash and oppress us as a people. You know, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than religion. Religion is just one of the tools that they're using in their toolbox to indoctrinate and to oppress the minds of us as a people. Yeah, but I will be posting the link in the chat so that you get the opportunity to join us on this platform should you wish to do so. Back to you, Brother Franklin.
You know, I was taking notes while y'all was speaking. Y'all got me so emotional. I mean, you all are just so in tune, so awoke, and I love being around those who are in tune. I love being around those who are awoke. I love it. I love it because we feed energy off each other, and I love it. So I have all these notes based on what y'all was saying to add to what you were saying, and I understand that there are people when I speak about their religion, they become defensive. They feel that some would say I'm the devil trying to trick them. That's the ideology. But I'm going to speak facts, critical thinking and facts. First of all, many Black people that go to church and they're speaking in tongue, they say, that's Jesus, that's the spirit of Jesus, that's the spirit of Jesus. Jesus touches me today.
Yeah.
When the early white enslavers, first of all, the white enslavers used to teach the Bible to the slaves, have them service. Then he would chose a slave that he would have teach it. That the slave was not allowed to read, but his slave was from memory, regurgitating certain verses that he preached to the other slaves. Now, once they start allowing the African slaves to do the service, they start incorporating music. They start incorporating drums. Now when they had this religious service, the Africans would be speaking in tongue and having trances and shaking. When the white enslavers first witnessed this, they said, what the hell was that? Many white enslavers with narratives that didn't know what that was, because speaking in tongue had nothing to do with the Christianity that was introduced to the Africans. It was an African expression. It was something that comes back from Africa. Now today, millions of Africans says, that's Jesus, that's the spirit of Jesus. But the facts are, the speaking in tongue, the shaking, the trance had absolutely nothing to do with Christianity. And when the white enslavers saw the Africans speaking in tongue and jumping up, they thought something was wrong with them. Some thought they were losing their minds. Some thought they were having seizures. So you see how when you're ignorant, how it's okay, this is Jesus, but it's not. Let's go further on. The Muslims and the Christians were originally introduced to the Africans by those who enslaved the Africans. They castrated the African men, and they raped the African women. The American enslavers called the rapists, called them bedwenches. The Muslims, the Arabs, called them concubines. Now let's think. Now, when a religion is introduced to a people through rape, murder, castration, to believe that that's how the spirit of God is introduced to a people is stupid.
Yeah.
We were introduced to those religion by those who castrated, raped, murdered us. And we're saying that's how God introduced to a people? Think. Come on. If we would just think, we are the people we are waiting for, but we must overcome our socialized mind. Socialized people are not thinking for themselves. They're doing this thing that's called think without thinking. Now, let's go further. The early white Christians' conversion of Africans into their faith had absolutely nothing to do with Africans joining them in heaven, because this is an irrefutable fact, because the early white Christians believed that Africans were not humans, that Africans had no souls, and that heaven was for whites only. In fact, the early white Christians believed that the mere thought of an African entering heaven was as ridiculous as a dog doing so. This is a fact. You can't be offended for me speaking fact. Now, when you look at the facts as they were, you can say with 100% certainty that the white Christians' conversion of Africans to their faith had absolutely nothing to do with saving our souls. The true reason was to indoctrinate the belief of a white God into the minds of the African. When the belief of a white God was indoctrinated into the mind of African, this produced an adoration towards whiteness that then subconsciously transfers over towards white people. It makes the African subservient towards whites. This therefore made it easier to colonize Africa. This made it this made the African slaves in America more loyal slaves. We have to use our intelligence. We must stop agreeing with things that you're offended because I'm speaking facts. You're offended. If you're offended to be speaking truth, it's because your mind has been socialized. Your mind has been socialized that you're offended by logic.
Yeah.
You're offended by critical thinking. You see, the reason why it's so difficult to teach truth to a Black Christian is because the Black Christian has been conditioned to ignore everything, all information that refutes his ideology, and stand firm on blind faith. And it sounds great. It sounds fantastic. I'm standing on blind faith for Jesus, but it dumbs down the mind. Our true spiritual system wants us to be wise, intelligent, and insightful, not dumb and holy. The Bible has made millions of us dumb and holy.
True blood.
Facts.
True.
Now, when you see people arguing based with someone who is speaking facts, a person who's applying critical thinking, a person who's applying common sense, but they refuse to it because what the Bible has done to millions of Black people has shaped the minds of Black people, where teaching them the truth is literally like trying to feed medicine to the dead. That's our reality. And there are people who are listening right now who are turning it off, angry.
Angry.
Facts. All I applied was critical thinking. Now, the difference between false knowledge and true knowledge is false knowledge mentally enslaves the mind. False knowledge doesn't provide true solutions. It allows you to hold on to things regardless of how ridiculous it is. True knowledge elevates the mind. It elevates the radius of the mind, and a mind once expanded to a greater radius by truth never returns to its original smaller size because the truth won't allow it to. We are here today to speak truth. We are here to recognize that the socializing of our minds have been socialized, and is a system that's being constantly reapplied every day. They first start socializing our mind during our early education and development, when our minds are young and most impressionable. Now, millions of us, we all know that Black people are denied a racially affirming curriculum. As white students, we clearly get. We know this. We all know this. But we normalize it. We talk about it, but so what? Well, okay, that's the situation. But there's a social science behind it. You know what the social science is? In order for a dominant society to maintain their social dominance over the oppressed must be conditioned to accept their subordinate status within a society dominated by their oppressors. And how do you achieve this? You achieve this by denying the oppressed of a racially affirming curriculum. When the oppressed is denied a racially affirming curriculum, this psychologically conditions them to accept their subordinate status. And this was being done to our children. It's being done right now. Somewhere in the world, a child is in school and he's being indoctrinated. He's being conditioned to believe less of himself and more of Caucasians. Everything's a science. We know for example, we say, why is it that the white man insists that the ancient Egyptians were Europeans? Why? Clearly, we know that Africa, we know that Egypt is located in Africa. We also know that carbon dating testing has proven that the ancient kingdom is thousands of years older than before the first Arabs and Europeans ever arrived in the 7th century. These are hard facts. True. We also know in 2012, 2013, DNA analysis performed on Pharaoh Tutankhamun, Ramses III, Ramses IV, and several others, scientifically proven that the ancient Egyptians were Africans. They're consistent with the sub-Saharan Africans. Therefore, remember this, when the Arabs dig up bodies and say, look, these are our ancestors, Arabs who didn't arrive there until the 7th century, when they dig up a body that died thousands of years before their ancestors arrived there, that is not their ancestors. It's common sense, right? I'm only speaking common sense. But here's what the white society does. And here's why they have to portray the Egyptians as being Europeans. Now, according to social scientists, a people's future is predestined by the past they're taught to believe about themselves. According to the theory, an inspiring past is necessary to achieve an inspiring future because people reference their future capabilities based upon their past achievements. Therefore, to give themselves a path that inspires the aspiration of their own people, they've removed themselves from the uninspiring caves of Europe and falsely placed themselves upon the thrones of Africa's Egypt. Now, also, according to social science and Orwellian propagandists, truth is not important. What's only important is what's perceived as true, because people function based upon their perceptions rather than what's actually true. So by creating the perception that the ancient Egyptians were Europeans, they've given their racial group a path that inspires them. And then to suppress us psychologically, they've told us that it's we who have no significant history. When in reality, all of the Greek scholars were educated by Africans. The world's largest man-made structure in the Guinness World Record is located in Africa and Nigeria, a great wall that was destroyed by the Europeans. The oldest mathematical tools, the oldest manuscript, the oldest university are all in Africa. But millions of Africans are walking around believing that Africans were illiterate and uncivilized. You see how the narrative affects us? We function based upon the narratives. And the narratives that millions of Africans are functioning on is that we had no history.
That's right.
There are millions of Africans on the continent that says we were dumb and ignorant until the white man came and colonized us. There are millions of Africans in America who said we were nothing until we were enslaved. And in our school books, when we go to our history, it starts with slavery. In Africa, when they're being taught about their history, it starts with colonizing of Africa. They're made to believe that a white man came into our life and blessed us. They feel indebted to those who brutalized us. The white society's brutal mistreatment of black people is the longest ongoing through history, and it's unprecedented. Yet, in spite of this brutal history to the contrary, millions of black people perceive themselves as their worst enemy and revere Caucasians. This is a reason.
Yeah. Let me post a link in the chat. I did get a request from someone that they would like to join us on stage. So I've just posted the link in the chat. If you would like to join us on stage, then you're welcome to do so. We've got our brother Franklyn back with us. Fantastic. We lost you for a short while there. I've just posted the link. I did have a request from someone who wanted to join us on stage. So yeah, join us. Let's hear what you have to say. Dr. Abu, wow. A lot has been said. What say you, my brother?
You know, and the truth have to be said. The truth have to be said, because we have been social engineering in such a way. And today, we are afraid of our African spirituality. But we are willing to join Scientology.
Yeah.
You understand? I've seen group that call themselves liberationists.
Yes.
In bed with Scientology. Not African, you understand? And people will say, oh, we can't say this and we can't say that, but it have to be said. You know, we can't come up there and tell people that the white man is the devil, and around the corner you're in bed with them.
Yeah.
You understand? That's social engineering by proxy, blood. And we have to be real and start to call out certain things for what they really is. For what they really is, blood. Because it does not seem right to know that we are coming from an African liberation perspective, and now we end up in bed with Scientology.
Yeah.
You understand? All kind of different ology, blood. You understand? We got to be real with ourselves, because as I said, I don't see a problem in organization. I see the problem because I see the problem in the organization. Because, you know, if we have a problem, if I put on the door wrong, then yeah, we can argue about the door. Said, oh, Abu, you put the door upside down. And yeah, we can talk about that and I'll change it. But the argument is not about the work that we are doing. The whole argument is about the things them that the European feed to us. You know? And we'll fight on our brother in Jesus' name. We'll fight down our brother in other people's name, but we never fight down our brother in the truth. And this is where we are today. This is where we are today. We use other people certification to judge our brothers and sisters and judge our own nation. And that is why we fail as a people. And if we continue that way, we'll forever on the road into failure.
No,
Rise up, Dr. Abu. And yeah, just a reminder, I've posted the link in the chat. I did get a request from someone who said they wanted to join us. All you need to do is click the link, and then that will bring you backstage. Brother Franklyn.
I know, I don't want people to think that I'm just here complaining. No, there's a method. There is, what we're doing is a science, is a counter science. The only way to fight propaganda is with counter propaganda. Okay. Now, the truth is like a virus in the system of white supremacy. So you spread the truth, and many of our people want to understand, and the truth cannot be unseen. So the goal here is to make our people understand it and see it. And once our people see it, it can't be unseen. Minds do change. Okay. Now, when a people are shown an accurate understanding of the war against them, out of a necessity to survive, they develop counter strategies. This is inherent within the human psyche. So the goal here is to push against the misinformation and teach our people the truth of what's being done to them. Now, I like to use a scenario. Imagine there's an African village, and these Europeans came in, and they allowed these Europeans to build a town next door to them. And all of a sudden, on this African village, babies start dying. They don't know why. Babies are dying. The elderly are dying. So, not knowing what's happening, this village says, maybe we're cursed, and they start using different remedies because they don't know why. Now, once you find the true source of why the babies are dying, why the elderly are dying, and let's say the solution, the answer was that the Europeans who moved next door was poisoning the well water because they wanted that beachfront land for themselves. Once the Africans in that village knows the true source of the deaths, naturally, organically, solutions rise.
Yes.
They're going to stop drinking from the well water. They're going to close up the well. They're going to dig a new well and put guards on the well, and they're going to attack those who are killing their people. This is why proper information is needed for our people. And don't be frustrated. Once you give a people the proper information, action will follow. It's automatic. It's inherent. Now, it may seem frustrated when a person has been conditioned to drink dirty water. And he's drinking dirty water, and you come before him and you're showing him a clean glass of water, and you're showing him why that water that you're drinking is dirty and why it's actually bad for you, and you try to introduce him to clean water. But you just continue to show him and explain to him and educate to him why this is the water you need to drink. Once he accepts his water, the knowledge brings about action. So I try not to get frustrated with it. He's spreading the proper information. The goal, those who want to be active, those who want to do something for their people, learn proper information and share it unrelentingly. Share it unrelentingly. There's another factor you can tell when your information is true knowledge. False information is always endorsed by the oppressor. You can post on social media about Jesus all day long, and it won't be limited. No one's going to suppress it. No one's going to remove it. White man has sold billions of Bibles to Africans throughout history. Billions. And now you start teaching true history. You start teaching about psychological warfare, social engineering. They come after you. They start shutting things down. They start limiting how people can see your posts. This respond is evidence of what is true. The oppressors never endorses information that liberates you. The fact that all white people endorses when black people are Christian inherently proves that the Bible is not our true knowledge. Common sense, intelligence.
Yeah, man.
Intelligence.
Yeah, man.
And so, like the Sister Shani was saying, I'm not here attacking just someone religion. My passion is because I love my people. My passion is, I'm not to know if you're familiar with the story, The Spook Who Sat at the Door. Are you familiar with the movie and the book?
Yeah, man.
When I sat in those classrooms on psychological warfare for the U.S. military, in the U.S. Military War College, and I'm sitting here and I'm seeing these programming, I'm like, this is what they're doing to black people. So, you know, so when I go to my community, I say, hey, it ain't Willie Lynch, that's BS, it's this. And I don't know if you all are following what happened 3 months ago in Canada. Are you familiar with what happened 3 months ago in Canada? They found all of these bodies of Native Americans, and they found 250 bodies, children in mass graves, buried on church property. The church murdered these children. Now, once the story came out, there are all of these Native Americans in Canada who came forward. They're 80 years old, 75 years old, and they're telling the story of how their minds were socialized. Now, these are living people who are telling their stories. And here's what they said. The white government told their parents, you have to let your children come with us or you're going to go to jail. So the Native Americans were forced to let the children go away to boarding schools. And you know what those children were taught? They were taught to hate their spiritual religion. So they were taught to hate their Indians, what's Indian about them, hate their characteristic. They would sit in the class and they were literally being taught to hate themselves, while at the same time being sexually abused, boys being raped, girls being raped. These are living Native Americans. But my point to you is the fact that you see the church was involved with programming these minds of these children, and they did it by constantly demoralizing them, by telling them the spiritual system was in crap, that they were terrible. This is the same process that was done to Africans. And they know it works because they did it to Africans.
Have to agree with you, Brother Franklin. You know, this is exactly what our children are going through in the schools, even until today. You know, they go into the school at about 3-4 years old, and by the time they're 5-6, if you do the black doll, white doll test on them, they're always going to pick the white doll as the pretty one, the white doll as the friendly one, the white doll as the good one,
all
the
by
black
design.
doll as the bad one, the black doll as an ugly one, as young as 5 years old.
All by
That's how they have mastered, you know, the mind control that they have over us as a people. And as you were saying, you know, they then grow up hating themselves. They look in the mirror and they don't like the image of themselves because they've been taught to hate their features and everything about them, and to see their people, their own people, you know, as being less than, inferior, never accomplished anything, never have done, never will. Because as you were saying, there's nothing in the education system to affirm us of our greatness. We can go through the entire education system, and the only time you see us is as enslaved Africans. And then, you know, we're taught that it was other Africans that sold us into slavery. So that system, you know, of education is yet another tool that is being used, you know, to totally destroy our minds and to remove us from the knowledge of who we are. We've got someone called Sis Nzinga who's joined us backstage. Let's add her to the stream and welcome her to the Sister Shanice Show. Welcome, Sister Nzinga.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hearing you loud and clear, dear. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm fine, and I'd like to say afternoon to Dr. Abu and Franklin, and I would like to just add to the conversation just how deep the mind control actually goes, because we are dealing with people that have gods that they conduct child sacrifice. And, you know, they're doing rituals every day for us, and we're not embracing our African spirituality to protect ourselves. Also, you know, so I also the, you know, the indoctrination, the brainwashing just goes so deep. We're being attacked with the food, with the water, you know, everything we take in, we see, everything we listen to. and also, you know, just our everyday life is just, you know, we're being attacked, and we don't realize just how, you know, so that we don't know how to protect ourselves, because we don't know, you know, just it's coming from every direction. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation, you know, so that we could be made aware of it.
I appreciate calling in and bringing in the spiritual warfare, because so often people don't speak about the spiritual warfare, but there is a spiritual warfare element to this.
Yes.
In fact, there's a spiritual, I'm trying to remember how it goes. Under warfare, maintaining dominance, there are certain rules that must be applied to. And they say that under this, the oppressors must reveal the tactics that they're using against the oppressed. They put them in books and they put them in movies. Okay, like for example, the movie The Matrix, about these the humans being imprisoned by non-humans, and the non-humans being the programmers of everything the humans believe. Now, in the teaching, it says when the oppressors put their ideologies, their methods into movies and into books, and the oppressed don't respond, do anything about the information, then by default, the oppressed has given the oppressors permission
sanction
to enslave them.
Yes,
so according to them, we have given them permission. That's the spiritual element of this war, of the warfare.
Precisely. That's why there's no karma.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Because they've already told us what they're going to do.
Karma. Exactly. That's how they avoid karma.
There's no karma attached to whatever they're doing. That's why they do it.
Yes, they avoid karma by doing it. You're absolutely right, my sister. 100%. A lot of people don't understand that. That's how they avoid the law of karma, because they said we've made the information available to the Africans, but when the Africans don't do anything about it, the Africans give us permission to do what we do to them.
That's why it's so important to counter their rhetoric. So when they announce over the news or through their movies or in whatever medium they decide that they are, for example, you know, like Belinda Gates was saying, I see 10,000, you know, thousands of African bodies dead on the streets from this, you know, this COVID thing. You know, the minute that is announced, we have to counter it. We have to cancel it. We have to send it back to, you know, to its source. You know, because if we don't, then it's like we're giving it permission to happen. And just like with the Haiti disaster, before that happened, they were predicting that the hurricane was going to hit and tens of thousands of people were going to die, possibly hundreds of thousands. But it never reached those numbers because, you know, very quickly, everybody in the spirit realm, you know, got into canceling that. So there is, you know, power in the spiritual realm, not necessarily through their means, but we need to know how to activate that power, because as our sister Nzinga was saying, you know, they are actively activating their powers through, you know, their sacrifices, child sacrifices, and all the other grisly, horrible things that they do that gives them power. But what are we doing to get our power? Praying to a white God, they're hoping that a white God's going to drop out of the sky and save us. Isn't going to happen. Otherwise, it would have happened, as you were saying, when we needed him most during our 400 years of enslavement or the 1,500 years of enslavement under the Arabs before then. But it never happened. And what did Leopold say in his letters? He was saying that they had to tell the missionaries that they had to do everything that they could to stamp our African spirituality out of us, because that's where we get our powers. So what do we need to do? We need to get back those powers through our African spirituality. And so, you know, we really need to find our powers again as a people, because we were powerful. That power still resides in us. It's just to know how to tap into it. Dr. Ivan, did you want to jump in here?
I wanted to also add that it's all hidden, but in plain sight.
Yes, exactly.
And all is mental. So, like you said, we need to counteract it with using our collective consciousness. So, like everyone was saying that tomorrow is going to be rainy, it's going to be miserable, and everybody was focused on that. So we are creators. So whatever we collectively think is what we create. And we don't realize that we're doing it because we don't know we have the power to do it.
Wow, rise up for that, Sister Nzinga.
Yeah,
So very importantly, we need to start thinking as collectives and start thinking what we want to manifest. Anything that we manifest, anything we think as a collective, we're going to manifest. So let's begin to think about and see ourselves in power, you know, with authority to be able to create and to make the changes that we want to see. So yeah, let's empower ourselves. Rise up for that, Sister Nzinga.
Yeah,
So
man.
often when we as Black people talk about using our power, speak truth, speak our narratives, we kind of look at it almost as a supernatural way, but it's not necessarily supernatural. There is a psychological effect that narrative has on the mind, and the belief in the narrative becomes the power. People who believe the narrative gives it power. It's that simple. People who believe the narrative and function based upon the narrative gives it its power. Right now, if you walk outside, there, for example, there are probably thousands of churches across your community praying to Jesus, even though he never existed. But the churches are there. They're billing millions of dollars. Why? Because the people belief in it gives it its power. So we have to understand how you and the white man impose its narratives. We function based upon those narratives, and it gives the power over us. Narrative is their power. And we're 24/7, we're functioning based upon their narratives, false narratives. When I turn my light on, thanks to white man for me having that light bulb. The white man's the reason why I have it. Wrong. A Black man is invented the light bulbs. When I jump in my car and start my car, the narrative is that the first car was invented by a white man. So thank the white man. But the reality is the first car was invented by an African American. My point is the narratives. Those who control the narrative control the masses, controls everyone who believes the narrative. It's a spiritual realm, but it's more organic than we realize. There are these social science who thoroughly studied this. In fact, proof of how narrative moves mountains is seen in the fact with soldiers. America might want to go to war because they want oil or some hidden nefarious agenda. But then they create the narrative, we are going to right or wrong. We're going to liberate those people. And then you tell the American soldier, you are the good guys. You are righting the wrong. The American soldier grabs and accepts the narrative, goes to war, killing innocent people, and he may even lay down his life based upon the narrative. But the narrative is totally a false one. Society functions based upon narratives. Those who believe the narratives function based upon the narrative. And according to the social science, truth is not important. Perception is more important than reality because people function based upon their perceptions rather than reality. So when you create a perception, the white man created the perception that he's superior. And this will function based upon that perception. That perception aids in maintaining white social dominance. We are in a system that most of us don't understand. And as long as we keep clinging to biblical fairy tales and slave syndrome myths, rather than understand, we have to look at this in a warfare tactic, and because it's a warfare.
It is
in
a war.
the military, we have something called POW. We have a manual of how you treat POWs, and the way that we treat POWs in the military is exactly how they treat Africans within white-dominated societies. When the prisoners try to have a revolt and rebel, you identify the leader, and you identify him as an agitator, and then you separate him from the group. That's what they do. When we have a black leader speaking up, you assassinate him. You remove him from the group. And then you never legitimize the complaints of the prisoners. Never. Regardless of what their grievances are, they're never acknowledged. And that's what they do to us. Our complaints are never acknowledged. The white man always presents counter narratives that diffuses our complaints. Like when we say Black Lives Matter, and he says all lives matters. It's a counter propaganda to diffuse the moral statement behind Black Lives Matter. They're gaslighting us. All of these are tactics. These are tactics. We must teach our people these tactics. And once our people's mind has been elevated, action follows. Action follows. In fact, even if you didn't want it to follow, it's going to follow. Once the mind sees it, You have to do something. It's a part of the human psyche. So all things of what we're doing now. Last, I'm just gonna let y'all talk. I'm sorry. I'm saying this real quickly. With the sister came on. Zabrinsky, I can't remember his first name. Zabrinsky was a brilliant political scientist who worked for several presidents. Okay, he was an advisor to several presidents, and he said this. He said he died, I think, 4 years ago. He said the white elites are more fearful of the Africans than at any other time in history.
True.
And here is why. He said, this is a political scientist says this. And he said, therefore, everything must be done within the power of the white world to keep Africans throughout the diaspora and Africa divided. Because here's what they fear. Their greatest power for over 400 years has been that they exclusively control the narratives. They control what you Africans in Great Britain believe about we Africans in America, what you believe about Africans on the continent, what you believe about Africans in the Caribbean. Okay, they control what me as an African in America believe about you Africans in Great Britain, and they're able to divide us. They're able to keep us hate each other. But here's the deal: for the first time in history, thanks to two black men, two African men, we have the internet. We have the Nigerian scientist, who's the reason why we have the internet, and we have the African American scientists who developed the .com system that allows normal people to tap into the internet. We're able to communicate with our own narratives. And we see, contrary to the white man's lies and image, we're meeting like-minded Africans around the world. We see we're one people. We see we're the same people because now we are speaking our own narratives. You're not seeing the African-American image of a thug, hoodlum, ignorant, ghetto blaster controlled by the white person. You're not seeing an image of Africa who is an evil warlord. You're not seeing that. You're speaking to Africans. We hear our own intelligence. The white man always controls his narrative. Millions of people, for example, believe that the white man is his heavy presence in Africa is because Africans are so corrupt that they're unable to govern themselves. So the white man presence is needed there. But the white man presence is actually there because he needs Africa's resources. He's not able to survive more than 2 years without Africa's resource. But he creates a propaganda campaign of why he's there, and millions function based upon that false narrative that benefits him.
I've got a question I want to throw in the mix here. Afghanistan. Now, the West spent 20 years trying to indoctrinate the Afghanis, but it didn't seem to work. I've got my thoughts on why it didn't work, but really want to hear from you, my brother Franklyn Jones. Why do you believe that maybe, after 20 years of the West trying to indoctrinate the Afghans to love them and to love their oppressors and to hate their own people, it didn't work with them? Why did it not work, in your opinion?
I can say this. I don't like to do opinions. I like to do based upon what I study and what I've studied, what I concluded. And I haven't studied on the Afghans, on what counter tactics that they're using. But I have studied on the Chinese. Now, there are tactics that the Chinese are using, and I'm telling you, if Africa was able to implement those same tactics, the African minds would be stronger. The Chinese don't allow any type of education from the West. The Chinese censors movies. If they see things that it promotes white supremacy, they cut it out of the movie. The Chinese, in 1970, they sent a show called Greenhorn and Kato, Bruce Lee as a sidekick. They redid the movie and made Bruce Lee the lead. They control because they understand how propaganda affects the mind. So everything that comes into China, now America vilifies them, but they protect the minds of their people because they understand the warfare. It's a true warfare. And the warfare of manipulating the mind is so true that let's look at the 2016 election. The U.S. government indicted 12 Russian citizens for interfering with the U.S. election in 2016. The reason why the U.S. government took it so serious that they charged those 12 Russians and indicted them, because the U.S. knows that the manipulation of the minds is real, because they do it to Africans every day. true science. We have to shift our people's collective paradigm away from believing in silly Willie Lynch, silly Bible, and start learning the social sciences that are used for maintaining dominance and for the long-term oppression of a people. We have to understand that. There's something else about oppression. People inherently are not wired to accept the long-term dominance of other groups over their lives. We're not wired that way. So you have to be conditioned to do it. And that's another factor of why they continue to bombard us with propaganda that makes us believe that we are our worst enemies and we should revere and respect only whites. This system not only makes us accept white dominance over our lives, it makes millions of us even prefer it. A war against our minds. We have to understand the true science. People sitting in rooms doing this to us.
True.
For real, for real.
It starts with computer games. It's with the television.
Yes.
It's in the schools.
Yes.
All the elders
Yes.
that are around the children. The programming starts very, very young.
Yes.
And we've come a long way, but we've still got a long way further to go.
Yes, my sister.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we allow to follow the European narrative, and nature is there showing us, showing us the whole thing, because to pick a mango, you take it from somewhere.
Yes.
You understand? To take a melon, you take it from somewhere.
Yes.
You know, see it, to take us, we come from somewhere. We cut from a biblical, what you call the navel string or whatsoever.
Yeah.
You understand? So if you ignore the womb, because we get brainwashed into a classroom coming from a class womb.
Yes.
You understand? And when you ignore the womb, the woman, and this is what happened to the African over the year. He followed the European narrative.
Yes.
And create his own gallas.
Yes.
Because when you ignore the woman,
yes,
you understand, you're ignoring yourself completely.
Yes.
And most of all of these religions, they ignore, because they're not dealing with the womb energy. They are dealing with the dick. That's why they're all dictators. The Pope is a dictator. All of these bishops, they are dictators.
Yeah.
And within that dick, they will molest animals, they will molest children, and they will rape. Because if the church set up whorehouse.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Religion, those of us who have taken on the white man's ideology, religion breeds sexism.
Yeah.
You said, woman, you obey me. The woman is like the story of Adam and Eve, that God created man, and man was lonely, so he created a woman. And the woman is there to serve the man's use. And you have men function based on that narrative. God made you for me. God made you to make my life. This is the white man proclivity for racism and sexism. And that's his proclivity for sexism. Now, when you study the ancient African teaching, we had more respect for women. It was not, I'm the man, I said was best. They made us believe that that's a part of our masculinity. That's untrue. If you respect your woman, and we both sit down and say, okay, which plan best works for the family? If the woman plan is best, baby, I'm going with yours. It's best. Here is the true system. The African system, we treated a man and a woman like the hand, okay? The fist can fight and defend. The hand can caress. But they're both equal. There's the back of the hand is no more superior than the palm of the hand. They have their functions. And the hand is unfunctionable without the other side. But the white man created this propaganda through religion where he subjugates women, where he believed that, and I've met women who have been programmed by a woman who believes that the man is the head and she's the tail. She didn't understand. But I said, no, the man is not the head and you're the tail. I said, you are part of this, you have different function. I said, if we were in ancient Africa, I am the bigger and the stronger, so I will go out and hunt and bring food to provide for our family, and you will be there raising the children. And sometimes you are the warrior, we go out together as warriors. We have African women who are warriors, side by side.
True.
But this ideology has become foreign to the African mind. He has taken on the ideology of Westerners that degrades and makes the woman smaller. Now, here's the deal. The Bible story, here's how we say narrative is power. Based upon a story that Eve came from the rib of a man. Never happened. It's totally fiction. But people function by it, give that narrative power. While the reality is, we know we all came from the wombs of a woman. You see how people function based upon false narratives? This is something that the white social scientists have thoroughly studied.
Yeah.
Imposing his false narrative, imposing his false narratives. We have to educate our people to the system in order for them to liberate themselves from this. And even though some get angry, even though some feel frustrated, the power is to just keep saying the truth. Keep saying the truth. There's power in that truth. There's power in that true narrative. Never underestimate the power of planting proper seeds into fertile minds. That's what we're doing to those who are listening. That's what we're doing. And they're affecting around them.
That's what Josh Mapanga says, that we have 3 estates, and the first estate is between our ears, and we've got grass growing on top of it. And that's the mind. That's the estate of the mind. We have to be mindful of what seeds are being planted.
Yes.
And then the second estate is between our legs. And they're controlling it by, restricting like reproduction and men turning into women. And, so we need to control that estate before we can even think of getting the final estate under our feet.
Yes.
We have to control all 3 estates.
Speaking of the second part, women don't realize millions of women have been turned into sexual desires for men through the pornography agency industry. They used to call them adult performers, right? As soon as they call them porn stars, it took off. Millions of people. But the porn industry is being controlled by male perversion. What sells to male are what the women are doing in these movies. And our young girls are now learning sex from the internet of these things, that they've normalized it. And they've normalized doing these perverted things, these self-degrading things, and they don't even know it's self-degrading anymore. You have women who would say, pull my hand, call me a bean, slap me, spit in my mouth. My point is, people be, when you slowly feed information to people, you can turn them against your own interests, and they can't even see it.
Children are taught from the age of 4 masturbation in schools. So you don't even, it's a lot deeper than we even realize.
Yeah, that's true.
Programming, the indoctrination, the mind control that they have over us, and it's all of us. Because I made a comment the other day, and my friend said to me, you sound like your oppressor. When I said with the conversation, and I said, sometimes you've got to choose your battles and let sleeping dogs lie. And she said to me, that sounds like you're the oppressor, because it's something they would say. It happened a long time ago. Forget about it. Get over it. So we are like Caucasians in black skin, and we don't know. We've got so much unlearning to do.
Yes,
it's unreal.
Yes.
No, it's true.
In our language, what we think is our diet, our food, it's not. We just.
Yes.
We're lost. We're confused.
It takes a lot to turn around a ship going in the wrong direction. Okay, it takes a lot. But before the ship can turn around, we have to start teaching the crew members that they're going in the wrong direction. So it's a slow process, but it starts with showing the people that we're moving in the wrong direction, and we're doing that. And the fact that we are on this panel speaking, and we can see the truth, This is a testament to the powerful African spirit, because we are buried under 400 years of lies, 400 years of indoctrination, 400 years of it. And yet here we are talking with our strong, loving African spirit after 400 years of being buried under it. So that's a testament to the power of the African spirit.
Chief Montana explained to me that we weren't the only ones that had our spirituality removed from us, and the oppression goes deeper. It's not just with us. They've oppressed everybody on the planet. And he explained to me that once we help them to reconnect with their spirituality, they will leave us alone. I don't know how true it is. Fingers crossed.
Okay, who leave us alone?
You know, why we stop?
The white man? Who will leave us alone?
The
Urugu.
Yeah.
There is this inherent thing within the white man where he has this greed for hunger. He has this, his propensities are there, and it's who he is, who he will always be.
Yes,
okay?
the mindset.
He knows how to be, and he's been this way since he first made contact with us. So I'm not interested in whether I'm going to change the white man. I'm interested in changing the mindset of the black man, which then combines the white man to get off his ass, get off his back. You know, so that's it.
They removed they removed their traditions or their rituals before they even went to Africa and indoctrinated us.
Totally brainwashed.
So like what's the name of that place up north?
Let me share my screen here. Let's see if I can find one of my presentations here. Here it is. I was looking for it. So hopefully you can see.
Stonehenge. Yeah, Stonehenge.
Okay. Right.
Everybody had their traditions, their rituals that they used to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
their beliefs? Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to bring up these images here. Which hopefully you can see on your screen, because we've talked quite a bit about religion, and we're talking about, you know, how the feminine side of so-called religion, you know, has been dropped. It's just these images here actually illustrate how far back, you know, the religion that a lot of our people hold dear today, you know, goes back thousands of years. So the original Trinity, and I'm sure there were Trinities before this one as well, we've got here was Osar, Oset, and Haru, mother, father, and son. And here they are, you know, the African Osar, the African Oset, and Haru, yeah, mother, father, and son. And then when the Egyptians came into Egypt, and they wanted their own gods for their people, they, you know, after a long time, persuaded the Africans to give them their own gods. And so the Africans gave them, they gave Osar, they gave the name Osiris, and to Oset, who is the mother, they gave the name Isis, and to Haru, who was the son, they gave the name Horus. So that's how they got Osiris, Isis, and Horus, mother, father, son. But then when the Romans came, they wanted their own gods as well. And so they changed the names from Oset, Osar, and Haru to Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. And, you know, even the original Madonna, the original Mary, the original features of mother and son, who people used to worship pre-Roman times, was the Black Madonna. And there are still so many images that you can find of the Black Madonna. But at a time where religion was very closely linked to political power and control, yeah, the leaders of the day had them worshiping the Black Madonna. So before Jesus was whitewashed, before Mary was whitewashed, you had the Black Madonna, and even before Mary and Joseph and Jesus, you had Osiris, Isis, and Horus, who were the Greek names of the gods. And even before that, you had Osir, Aset, and Harut. And these are just the gods, the deities in the northern part of Africa. If you went to other parts of Africa, they had their own names for their own deities in those regions as well. And I've got a whole presentation around this. But I just wanted to drop that in terms of just reinforcing what we were talking about how how back in the days, you know, the woman was very much kind of revered alongside the man, you know, and how we didn't just have gods, but we had goddesses as well. So I just wanted to drop that in there. And there's so much more that can be said about that, but let me just leave that
you know,
there.
Sister Shanice, you know, as Brother Franklin talk about, we regurgitate the lie.
Yeah.
You know, because we always when they say to African, have you ever read the book of Job? And said in book of Job, J-O-B is Job. But the man give it to you as Job.
Yeah.
You understand? And this is where we don't see the job that they do on us.
Yeah.
You understand? Because as I said, I never ask God for anything. You understand? You know? Because God is totally different from, I'm talking about Oludumare.
Yeah.
Or Amma. God, G-O-D, is government ordinance directive. A European entity that they use. I mean, I tell you, God is the most evilest entity on this planet Earth. God, Jesus, and the Bible is a weapon of mass destruction amongst African people. And that is, and I will take that to my grave. And I will never change this. Because this,
to those who are listening, I'm sure you offended millions just now. But I want to say something to support what you just said.
Yeah.
Those who just listen to the doctrine, I know you got offended. But if you could literally see the millions of Africans that was killed, murdered, tortured, raped, castrated, decapitated by Christians, you would see that the brother is telling the truth.
Yeah.
You would see that the brother is telling the truth. No, I'm sorry.
Yes, in the name of religion. Also, you know, something else that is held dearly in the Bible are the 10 Commandments. But how many of you know that those 10 Commandments actually came from the 42 laws of Ma'at?
Yes.
You know, so we have, you know, so there are only 10 of the original 42 laws that the Egyptians had back in the days as well. So, you know, and if you look on the walls of Egypt as well, you can actually see many of the stories that are in the Bible. And when we start doing this sort of study for ourselves, then we have to start questioning, you know, the Bible and the stories that are in the Bible. And we begin to realize where these stories actually came from, you know. So just want to drop that in there to reinforce what's being said in the discussion today. But won't go into too deeply because, as I said, it's a totally different presentation.
The God of the Bible actually killed more people than the devil.
Yes, that's true. That is true. Yeah. That's absolutely true.
And you can tell the rulers, because they make up the rules, which gods they worship, because you can tell a tree by the fruits that it bears. And they worship gods that require blood sacrifice, like May. And you can tell by their laws. This is why they've brought out laws like for abortion, and you know, you can tell who they worship.
For real, sis. You know,
and we need to go back to our African gods like Nawuni. That's the god that we worship for Kali.
Yes.
Ashe. Ashe.
Yes.
Call upon our gods, the gods of our ancestors.
That's right. And in every region of Africa, they had different names for their gods. So, you know, every sort of empire or every nation in their language had a name for their deity, you know, for their great one. And when we used to call on those names, you know, the image of those gods would look like us. And we got power from calling on those names. So one, you know, just 30 seconds round up because we are at the top of the hour. So let me go first of all to Dr. Abu for a 30-second wind up.
Budum family, you know, Sister Nzinga and Brother Franklyn, you know. What we are saying is not popular.
Yes.
You understand? It's not popular what we're saying, but I'm glad because I'm not popping out in all kind of disease. You know, see it. You know, I'm not. You know, as I said, I'm recovering.
Yes.
From white privilege addiction. I'm a recoverer. You know, see it, and you know, I have to be true with myself. I can't live in denial. You know, but give thanks. You know, and the road to recovery, we will reach our destination.
Budum, rise up, Dr. Abu. Nzinga, thank you so much for joining us. Let me give you 30 seconds as well to leave us with some departing words.
I am just trusting in the process, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And, you know, until we return to our right minds, you know, that's, you know, we just need to return to our right minds, because at the moment we're crazy, we're all mad.
Rise up, my sis.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We will continue, you know, each one teach one until we return to our right minds. 30 seconds to our guest today, Brother Franklyn Jones.
I thank you all for having me here. I really am. I'm blessed to be in your presence and blessed to all of your contributions. I like to say that the great awakening is happening. Big thing happens when people are given an accurate understanding of their plight and condition, and that's happening. We're doing that. We're elevating our minds of our people away from biblical fairy tales and falsehood, and giving them an understanding of the social sciences, the narrative, the spiritual warfare. And these are the things we continue to speak onto our people until they understand it. And the ancestors are pleased with all of us on this panel.
Ashe. Brother Franklyn Jones, we thank you so much for being a guest tonight on the Sister Shanice Show. Dr. Abu, as always, rise up yourself. Oh, what a soldier. And to our queen who's joined us on the panels, Sis Nzinga, much love to you, invaluable contributions. To everyone in the chat, for all the conversation that's been going on in the chat room, thank you so much. And for my departing words, to all of you who are viewing us right now, 125 of you, if each of you could share this video, you know, please do so. Give us a like on the way out as well. And all being well, we look forward to you joining us next strong. So stay powerful, have a wonderful, fantastic, Blacktastic strong, and we'll see you next Wednesday. More love, more power, more voodoo. One love.
One love.
Voodoo.
Voodoo.
Yeah.